So our project is the whistleblower reward system, and it's a decentralized solution ensuring whistleblowers are rewarded fairly, automatically, and without institutional interference. So who needs this product? This product is for the whistleblower. They face high personal risk, whether it's with their career destruction or legal exposure. They potentially never get rewarded, whether the payout system is slow or inconsistent. There's a conflict of interest between the organization being exposed, and they're also often the ones who control whether the reward is issued. And then this makes it so silence usually ends up prevailing, where people aren't incentivized to be a whistleblower to wrongdoing. And so what factors tell us now is a good time? In 2021, the SEC whistleblower program paid a record $564 million, but the average processing time for that was 9 years. So in 2022, the smart contract platform processed over 2 trillion in transactions. So the technology is there and available. Then in 2023, AI document verification reached near human accuracy on legal records, and it's been 3 years since then, so it's only gotten better. In 2024, major corporate fraud cases renewed global demand for protected reporting channels. And in 2025, regulatory momentum has been building with EU whistleblower directive enforcement beginning across member states.
All right, so a smart contract escrow, and escrow is basically like a third party that holds an asset between 2 transacting parties. And it's designed to be a neutral third party. So basically the way that the smart contract would work is that there's a sponsor, and then there's the whistleblower, and then in the middle, there's the contract. They would negotiate a fee. It'd be like a total percentage of the settlement that would go to the whistleblower. So say that it's like 1%. The sponsor would put up an amount before, say like 20K. And then afterwards, the funds are locked, but they can't access that 20K anymore. Then when the AI confirms the outcome of the case, say it was like 100K, gets paid out to the sponsor through the court case. If it's negotiated at 1%, then the whistleblower then gets access to 1K, and 19K goes back to the sponsor. So there's no gatekeeping or anything. So like the sponsor is not able to change their mind and then hold out the money, because that happens sometimes. And then it forces the whistleblower to have to sue and put their identity out there, which is like the last thing that they want. And like Matt said, it can take like up to 10 years to get the money out. So step by step, the whistleblower will submit their evidence. Then the funds are locked in the escrow. The AI monitors SEC filings to see the result of the court case. And once that happens, then the contract executes and the money goes to the whistleblower. And so the AI verification would be through court record APIs, SEC and FCA filings, and regulatory databases. And the way it works is there needs to be a confidence score of 3 sources. So if there's one source that says that the sponsor lost the court case, but then there's 3 others that say that they won, it's assumed that the one that said that they did not win the court case was false and faulty. So if there's 3 sources that confirm it, that are from these listed sources here, then the contract executes, and there's no third party or human verification that's needed. So it's completely decentralized.
All right, so now that Danny's kind of gone into how the actual contract works, I just want to take an actual peek inside it. So we have the idea of what happens, but how does that happen? You know, what's the actual code or building blocks behind it? So right here on the screen in that little square right there on the left, that's basically a code of a contract. So the 3 big points of like how this makes it work and keeps things secure is basically, first is that only the AI oracle can trigger. So that means no human or executive, whether prosecutor or the whistleblower, et cetera, can basically confirm that the money's locked, the information is valid. The AI does that and no one can interfere with that. Next, transfer is automatic. So the payable transfer part, that basically as soon as AI confirms that the information is good, the money is good, it sends that fund directly. There's no little like middle steps or approval steps in between that. And then Finally, the case closed flag, that's going to prevent double payouts or reentry attacks. So that's basically to stop like maybe hackers getting in and trying to get that transaction to happen again so they can just keep milking money, or maybe the whistleblower tries to get more money than he is promised. Maybe move the next slide. Okay, so that's kind of how the actual contract works, but how does what Danny say actually pertain to whistleblowers? He went into that too a little bit, but what is the benefit of using that for them versus just what they already do? And that's basically four big reasons. Now, the first biggest one is a zero knowledge proof. Does anybody here know what a zero knowledge proof is? Say nothing if you don't know. Perfect. Okay. All right, so I'll do a little example on the board. All right, let's say, because I don't get a lot of this tech stuff, I just kind of look for like a simpler way to understand it. So let's just say Professor Norman and Kate are walking down a hall, right? This marker says. Thank you. Let's say Professor Norman and Kate are walking down a hallway that comes to like a fork in the road, right? You have either path A you can take or path B. Now, the twist is that whichever path you're taking doesn't matter. It's actually just a circular hallway. It ends back at the same spot. But the catch is in the middle, there's a door right here, right? And that door has a code. So the only way you can get through the door is if you know the code, and that pertains both ways, right? So let's say Professor Norman knows the code, but he can't tell Kate the code. How does Kate know that Professor Norman has it or is legit? Well, if Professor Norman goes down path A and Kate stays here and then sees him come back through path B, then she knows the only way he could have gotten through is if he knew that code. She doesn't know the code, but she knows he knows. And that's basically the most important point for the whistleblower, is that basically it's a way for them to prove their information is valid without necessarily revealing who they are. Because the number one fear of a whistleblower is getting revealed. Like, let's say the case doesn't go through or it fails, and you're basically left with no money, and the company you ratted out on now hates you. So it's not a very good thing. Next, fresh wallet per case. A new wallet address is generated for each case, so that's going to make it impossible to link back to an individual. Next is that the evidence hashing. So actually no evidence. So like, I don't know, court documents, important legal documents, numbers, base, etc. That doesn't actually go into the blockchain. The only thing that goes in is a hash to represent all of that stuff. So it's a great way to keep things secure. You don't want to put all that out onto an area where it could potentially be hacked or taken. And then last is just abuse prevention. There's going to be timestamps for these tips. So that way, like, let's say information does come out at some point, if they have a timestamp for that, they can make sure that, hey, this guy knew this stuff beforehand and it was valid. It's not like he figured it out later and is trying to use that to get more money. Slide. All right, so we've talked about how this is good for whistleblowers, how it can be more secure, but we're in a business class, let's talk the business side. You know, how is this going to maybe benefit investors or actually implement this for the long run? So the most important stat I want you all to look at is 8.7 trillion is the annual cost of global corporate fraud. So that's a lot of money that you lose to fraud, and that's not a good thing. But 40% of fraud cases are discovered from whistleblowers. That's almost half of fraud cases can be solved or saved from whistleblowers. That's a huge stat. So the average delayed payout, those 9 years, that's a long time. That's a lot of time for them maybe to lose incentive to want to do this. So our way is going to be way more efficient and way quicker, getting rid of some of those middle steps. If we were to do that, who knows? That annual cost could go down. The amount of cases solved could go up. That could be a huge opportunity. And the smart contracts industry is rising. That's the projected value by 2032. So, yeah.
Now I'm going to kind of talk about how we're going to actually bring this to a real live platform from just the concept that we have right now. So first, we're going to make sure the platform fits within like the current laws and jurisdictions, and like at least the US to start. But also there's going to be a lot of companies with foreign relations, or they might have offices all over. So that's all going to be incorporated into that research and making sure that this can actually work, and if it needs to be specific to US cases to start, or how it can expand from there. Then we're going to design the smart contracts to lock funds and define automatic payout conditions, which is kind of what Danny talked about in his like model on the board. And then we're gonna integrate real world court data into the system. So it has like prior SEC filings and cases that it can kind of refer back to. Since there isn't gonna be any like human integration in terms of this, we want it to be all decentralized. But the AI will learn from past cases on how it can, process these documents. And then after that, we're gonna build a prototype to kind of demonstrate the end-to-end process and test everything, put in like some sample cases and see like if it brings them back as true or false. And then finally kind of go through and test the system and make sure that it's reliable and secure enough to put out. And then now we're going to talk about some of the risks and how we address them. The first is going to be since court data isn't standardized, we're going to use AI to cross-check multiple platforms before confirming an outcome. And then to prevent manipulation with payouts, like Danny talked about earlier, we need 3 independent sources, and that's going to be required for all cases. And then next is going to be the platform is going to work alongside the legal system. So this is going to be completely separate from what happens in the case itself. This money and processing is its own kind of individual concept. And then we're going to include the delay in the actual payout for 30 days to ensure that if there's any reversals needed or there's any issue with the case, that can be resolved. And then finally, the evidence is all going to be timestamped, so there can't be any tampering. And then kind of our key takeaway from our whole presentation is that justice shouldn't depend on a promise. We really want to offer like a solution for whistleblowers to not have to rely on the old system, but now we have a code that can, support them and keep their identities kept and also receive their proper payouts.